Hello again, TKF here with another how to cheat at blood magic and other things tutorial. Now, I set this up for demonstration purposes, not really to demonstrate this mechanic directly, but to provide life essence for things that I was going to demonstrate. But I realize a lot of people have trouble with spawning area for blood magic. All of this cursed earth is great, but if a mob hangs out, say I had extended this out to here. If a mob hangs out here, that's out of range of that ritual. How do I get that mob to go that way? Now for this you have several options, one of them being use water to push them. But that's kind of messy and it also removes some spawnable area. So that's not ideal, but it's also not a terrible thing to do. A lot of people end up using that one because it's pretty simple. You just throw down some buckets of water, use some slabs to guide it. A mob steps off of their safe zone and they are taken to where they can be murdered. Great. But a slightly better way than that, well, better is kind of subjective. A way that leaves more spawnable area but is more difficult to control is using these open blocks. There's also a, oh shoot, where is it? Here it is. This fan. It requires a redstone signal to work, and it basically just pushes mobs in the direction that it's facing. So I'll give it a redstone signal. Boom. There you go. That's what it does. Apparently it doesn't push you if you're in creative mode. Anyway. But that thing, you have to... The setup is kind of complicated because you can set them at angles, which means... And it doesn't care if you put a barrier here. It'll still push through it if you're within range of the fan. Meaning, if you don't have a completely isolated spawning chamber, it's going to push you around while you're trying to go through your base, which is extremely inconvenient and annoying, and I've had it happen to me several times, and it's just infuriating. I don't know about the Botania flower that does that. It might do the same thing, like push through walls and whatnot, but if you want to look into that, that's your bag, not mine. My personal favorite is the attractor obelisk, which I use in there. That thing with the emerald floating above it. It pretty much, you know what? Let me show you what it does. It requires these soul vials. You right-click with an empty soul vial on whatever mob you want it to attract, and you put it in here, and it attracts it. I put an octatic capacitor. I don't know how I actually am supposed to say that. I put this in here so that it increases the range to 64 blocks away and the amount of power this can store and the speed at which it works. That's just a little upgrade thing. So this thing without it has a range of 16 blocks, which is still pretty good, but it doesn't have as much of a power buffer and it doesn't work as fast. Now, I don't want this thing. That requires quite a bit of power to run it constantly like that. And for the demonstration, I set it up with a creative capacitor bank. But what if I didn't have that? This thing, as you can see, is running down its power buffer pretty quickly. I mean, it's not shooting straight down, but it's not going to last very long as it is. How can I power this? Well, in a previous episode, I showed you generators. Specifically, this one with a lava crystal. Now, the last time I tried this, it didn't work. Yeah, see? It's not getting power from this. So to fix that, we need some sort of buffer. For that, I use a capacitor. Now, you can use one of the lower tier ones if you want it to, if you don't want it to run through your LP as quickly. This will act as sort of a bottleneck. It'll keep it from transferring the power so quickly over to this thing, but it'll also keep this at empty. So it won't work as fast for as long as well, but it won't run through all of your power and all of your LP very quickly. But if you have a good setup and you don't really care, just use the vibrant one. But I don't have a very good setup right now, so I'm going to use just a regular capacitor bank. Because these, I know, they do transfer power. So they also can accept power from generators. Input, so that it can take in power from there. Put in your lava crystal. Boom. We're getting charge. And it's transferring directly over to here. See, it's going up. Now, because I don't have a very good setup, this is going to run through my LP extremely quickly. But it should stabilize because well, theoretically it would stabilize because I would, under normal circumstances, expand my spawnable area to be able to accommodate more mobs spawning at once, which means I would absorb more LP. Every time they get damaged, I absorb a certain amount of my LP transferred into that blood altar, which is my blood network via that blood orb. So the more spawnable area you have, the more mobs you have. The more mobs you have, the more LP you get, and the faster you get it. So the more LP you have, the more power you have, which means I could expand it even more, I think. And then I could just basically keep looping that and getting more and more LP, because I could pretty much set it up so that it funnels all sorts of mobs just into the kill zone here. I don't have to set it up exactly like this. I could actually set it up so that it uses conveyor belts. I'll show you that. Using these conveyor belts, it would work pretty much the same as water would, as in it blocks spawnable area, but it moves mobs in a certain direction, and it's extremely difficult to defy it. So they're kind of difficult to set up and use, but if you had a ridiculously large spawn chamber, you could use, I suppose, a couple of those attractor obelisks to get your mobs from your spawning areas, your far out ones, onto these conveyor belts. And the conveyor belts would move them closer to this one, the center one, which would pull them into the kill zone that way. So you can just set it up like that instead of using a whole bunch of your RF to basically guide them to the center. You can kind of cheat it like that. So you could potentially grow this setup as far as you can keep the chunks loaded, meaning as far as well, no, if you use chunk loaders you can expand even that. So really you can expand this infinitely, but I don't recommend doing that because you're going to get so much lag with all of the entities and mobs and things that are going to be all over the place, and it's extremely time consuming to set up. People who know much about Minecraft would probably be telling me at this point, mobs can only spawn within a certain distance of the player, but that is not true with this lovely, horrible cursed earth. It's bad news all around unless you're using it for this purpose right here. Cursed earth will spawn mobs regardless of their proximity to the player, as long as the chunks that cursed earth is in are loaded. Meaning, if you're standing on it, mobs will spawn right next to you. They don't care. If it's bright outside, it will set the cursed earth on fire, but mobs will still spawn right next to you. So, yes, you would have so much stuff spawning, it would probably lag and eventually kill your server if you're on a server. Down here, to make sure I don't run into the issue of completely draining my LP again, I set up this lovely little system here, even though this can only take in 200 LP per tick, I think, into the input tank, or from the input tank. This creative portable tank with life essence in it will make sure I have a constant flow of life essence, so I can just switch off all my rituals and things and quickly build back my LP. I did this for demonstration purposes, of course. You don't have access to these things in survival, unless, of course, someone changes crafting recipes and configs to allow you to craft them, but I don't see why anyone would do that. Anyway, this transfer node takes the life essence from this tank and constantly pumps it into this altar so that I don't run out for demonstration purposes. So yeah, that is how to grow your blood network and not die in the process, using extra utilities, Ender IO, and blood magic. Oh yeah, that cursed earth is also from extra utilities. You get it by doing the activation ritual on the division sigil thing, which is, so many people have done reviews and how-tos of that, so if you're interested in what that is, because you do get a lot of useful stuff from having an activated division sigil, like a healing axe that just basically fills your hunger bar as you hold it, which in super hostile maps is extremely useful. Just, I guess, go watch another tutorial that has to do with that stuff. But, yep. So, that's how to set up an automatic kill chamber and expand your spawnable area. I guess I'll see you all later.